Martial by Julia Ragdi. Section 1. Martial's Life. Early Life. Marcus Valerius Martialis, more commonly known as Martial, was born in Bilblis, Hispania on March 1st, circa 40 AD. A descendant of the Celts and Iberians, he was nevertheless a free-born Roman citizen. Although he was born into a lower-class family, Martial's parents, Fronto and Flaccilla, ensured that he received the traditional literary education in grammar and rhetoric. Life in Rome. Martial moved to Rome in 64 AD and secured himself as client to the powerful family of the Senecas, who are also from Hispania. To their literary circle belonged Lucian, the epic poet, and Calpurnius Piso, leading conspirator in the unsuccessful plot against Emperor Nero in 65 AD. After the latter incident and its consequences, Martial had to look around for other patrons. Exactly how Martial lived between 65 and 80 AD, when he first came to Rome, is unknown. It is possible that he turned his focus to law, although it is unlikely that he practiced in the courts either successfully or for long. Later recognition. Martial gradually gained recognition after the publication of his first work in 80 AD. In time, he was noticed by the Roman court and received from Emperors Titus and Domitian the jus trium liberorum, or right of 3 children, although he was not a father or even married. Along with this right came various privileges, which heightened Martial's economic and political status. In addition, Martial was awarded tribuneship, a military title from which he could resign after 6 months, but entitled him to the rights of an equus, or knight, for life. After 34 years in Rome, Martial returned to Spain, where his final book was published in 102 AD, and where he died a year later in his early 60s from unknown causes. Part 2. Literary Works. Publications. In 80 AD, Martial published his first book, Liber Spectaculorum, or On the Spectacles, in celebration of the consecration of the Colosseum. 4 years later, he published 2 uneventful books titled Xenia and Apophoreta, that consisted entirely of couplets describing the gifts given to guests at the festival of Saturnalia. Throughout the next 15 years, however, appeared the 12 books of epigrams that Martial is remembered for. Books 1 and 2 of the epigrams were published in 86 AD, and new editions were released yearly until 98 AD. Martial's final book of epigrams, numbered 12, was published in 102 AD in Hispania. Epigrams. Martial perfected these epigrams throughout his career, writing a total of 1,561. His works often bore a sting, containing insults, puns, parodies, and clever ambiguities. These elements are illustrated in poem 28 from Book 1 of the epigrams. If you think a care reeks of yesterday's wine, you are mistaken. He invariably drinks till morning. Here, what appears to be the contradiction of an insult masks another insult far more subtle. Popularity. Although Martial sometimes wrote about Roman life during the early empire, the bulk of his works were written about figures in Roman society. However, as an esteemed Roman poet, Martial was often criticized for excessively praising the emperors in his epigrams, and was renowned for his obscene and inappropriate verses. While the general public enjoyed Martial's wit and character, he was disliked by those who found his epigrams offensive. Wealthy Romans who either hoped to gain favorable mention or feared to receive unfavorable description in Martial's epigrams would bribe the poet with dinners, invitations, and gifts. Part 3. Additional facts. Connections in Rome. During his time in Rome, Martial met figures such as the literary critic Quintilian, the letter writer Pliny the Younger, the satirist Juvenal, and the epic poet Silius Italicus. Legacy. Martial's style greatly influenced the use of the epigram in literature of England, France, Spain, and Italy. Martial's epigrams are also read by Latin students around the world. However, today, most are drawn to Martial's works as scandalous entertainment because of their obscene language and explicit topics. Works cited.